cell phones. And as usual, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you care to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Alexander?
Why don't you?
Join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you. Does everybody who needs one have the hearing enhancers? Anybody need a hearing besides me? There's one left. I know we have some first-timers in the house. Welcome. Hope you come back for more of these things. We enjoy having you. And for the benefit of you first-timers, most of us who've been here many times know that we have several World War II veterans in the house. Would they please raise their hand so they can be recognized? So now that we know who you are, if you haven't had the chance to come up and speak to us, I'm sure you've all, but some of you who haven't, have things that you could tell us. We'd like you to consider doing that. And if you would, see Mr. Steve Galarizzo. Where are you, Steve? Over here. He's in charge of recruiting speakers, and as you know, he's done a terrific job. Many of whom have been reluctant to speak at first, all of whom have said it was a wonderful experience after they've done it. So if you haven't done it and would like to, or to share the stage with somebody else, we'd love to have you. Please see Steve, or anybody that you see wearing a badge. We'll get your name and we'll pursue you relentlessly. Here we are in November already, and we recognize that November 11th is Veterans Day. Started back after World War I. It was Armistice Day. And get my notes together here. Stuff going on today. Here we are. World War I came to an end when the Allies and Germany signed an armistice, and so it was called Armistice Day, and was subsequently recognized as Veterans Day in the United States because there have been several conflicts since then, and it seemed convenient to recognize everybody on one day, I guess, but nonetheless. Also, on November 11th, Armistice Day, in 1921, the Tomb of the Unknowns was dedicated at Arlington Cemetery in Virginia by President Warren G. Harding. Near and dear to many of your hearts, in 1940, the Jeep made its debut, and we all know the Jeep played a very important part to the military. In 1972, the U.S. Army turned over its base at Long Binh to the South Vietnamese Army. A lot going on November 11th. The event symbolized the end of direct involvement in the Vietnam War by the U.S. military. In 1984, U.S. President Ronald Reagan accepted the Vietnam Veterans Memorial as a gift to the nation from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. In 1992, now we're getting close, President Boris Yeltsin told the U.S. senators in a letter that Americans had been held in prison camps after World War II. Some were summarily executed, others were still living in this country voluntarily. 1992. 1993 in Washington, D.C., the Vietnam Women's Memorial was dedicated to honor the more than 11,000 women who had served in the Vietnam War. And finally, on November 11th, happens to be General George Patton's birthday, born in 1885. So a lot of things going on in November. Also, in 1977, speaking of this evening's speaker, Congress granted veteran status to the Women's Air Force service pilots and any person in another similarly situated group with jurisdiction for determined, given to the Secretary of Defense, etc., etc. But although they suffered the greatest casualty rate of any service, merchant mariners who served in World War II were denied such recognition until 1988, when a federal court ordered it. And you hear more about the Merchant Marine this evening. You'll notice that some of us are now wearing name tags. That's to identify us as people you can assail if you have any questions or anything else, so we can steer you to each other. And one of the most frequent reminders I give you is on the way out, remember the helmet committee. Frank Rode and Rich Lytle will have a U.S. Army helmet to collect whatever you'd like to donate to help us defray some costs. We do not charge, but we will collect. Thank you very much. Terry Johnson, are you here? Terry Johnson came up with something very interesting and has something, a little chat to make, and I couldn't deny her this because it's such a nice thing. So Terry?
Thank you. A while back, I was here when there was a presentation by Alvin Campbell, our own Alvin Campbell, and he talked about that evening about 18 men on a lifeboat for 35 days. And I was very moved by that talk. And I think what I took back with me was the nickel, the story of the nickel that they passed around for the whole time they were on that ship so that they would have some saliva. And I keep thinking of that. So I went home and I did some research. And I did find out from a book called Liberty, the Ships That Won the War. And on page 249, there was reference to Alvin's lifeboat. And it does say the last boat had drifted northward, and after 35 days it was sighted by the crew of the Spanish sailing vessel. The men were picked up and taken to Lisbon after 35 days. So I did type this up from the book, and I want to give it to you. In addition to that, I also researched about your ship, the Liberty ship James W. Denver. And his ship was completed in March 1943, and it was sunk April 1943. James W. Denver. And then I also, thank goodness we have the internet, I researched the U-boat that was responsible for that sinking, and U-boat 195. So I have that history of the U-boat, the Liberty ship, and thank you for your presentation. And yes, if other people can give their presentations, I know my husband knew Alvin for years and years before he heard the story here that one night that we were so moved by. So thank you, Alvin.
Anybody have a still camera? Laura? Bill? This is such a special thing for you to have done, Terry. What do you think of that, Alan?
Thank you.
What do you think of that?
That's something nice. I worked for a long I worked 43 years at Hershey, and when I left, one guy found it out, and they said, "You never talked about it." I said, "I never told nobody." So I worked all them years there, nobody ever knew what happened.
Well, thank you for sharing with us, and Terry, thank you so much for doing that. Sue me.
That's a surprise.
Last month, I don't have the attendance numbers. I know we had a pretty good house. We've got another one this evening, so thank you all for coming. Has anybody not received an email or postcard reminder who wants one? You'll get one. Our speaker. Okay. Next month's speaker will be Luis Damaso. Is that still on, Steve? Okay. He was a B-25 top gunner and a POW. He escaped. He was recaptured. I'm sure he's got a very interesting presentation next month, so come on out and bring a friend. This evening's speaker, as you know, is Gene Alexander, who was a merchant mariner, subsequently in the Navy. but he has interesting stories on both things. A quick note about Merchant Marine, I think I told you that they weren't recognized until 1988 as veterans. But I think his story will tell you that they had great recognition for that. So without any further ado, if you'll please join us up.
Is it coming through? Okay. Another note on Alvin. He was an armed guard. They were the guys that manned the guns on the merchant ships. And we hung out together a lot. Okay. Let's start in 1941. I just graduated high school. I'll tell you a little bit about it. The subway was a nickel. And if you could reach up and put your nickel on the bar, you got your beer. And they also had free lunch, believe it or not. Well, anyway, you get drafted. I didn't want to get drafted. And I saw, hey, Merchant Marine Academy. Let me try that. They probably won't accept me. What the heck? They accepted me. I was surprised. So I get there. First thing they do is shave your head. Or at least cut it down real low. And 3 months, they trained us. And after 3 months, part of our training was go to sea. Except that I got the mumps. So my whole section went to sea, and I'm in the hospital for a month. Anyway, I go down to, finally, the mumps go away. And I go down to Baltimore, and I'm assigned to the Cotton Mather, a Liberty ship. You know who Cotton Mather was? He was that guy that judged the witches up in Salem. I don't know why would they name him boat after or ship after that. I still haven't figured out. Anyway, they built those ships in 2 months. Can you imagine how? So we get aboard, we go out, we stop at, well, I gotta get this right. I got my ships mixed up here for a minute. We went down the coast, and then to Guantanamo Bay. I got over seasickness pretty quick. They gave me a bucket and a loaf of bread. And in 2 days, I worked it out. I never got seasick again. We get to Guantanamo, and usually across the Atlantic, they send you in the convoys. But apparently there weren't too many ships that were going the way we went. So we went alone. And later on I heard that they sunk over 40 ships just off the coast of Florida. But anyway, we went down through this Panama Canal, down around South America, up to Durban, South Africa. Get my notes out here, so in Durban, we went to Port Tufik, this side of the Suez Canal. Unloaded, loaded. I guess we were there a couple of weeks. Back down to Durban, back across to Rio de Janeiro, up the coast to, I gotta remember that, Fortaleza. I always forget that. And from Fortaleza, up to Bermuda, and then away to New York. And when we got to New York, they told us we were missing for a while. And it seemed, when we went through the Mozambique Channel, between Africa and the island of Mozambique, they sent us through every half day. They told us the ship that went a half day before us got sunk. And the ship that went a half day after us got sunk. We were lucky. In fact, I've been lucky all the way around. Back to the academy. See, that trip was 9 months. Now at the academy, I think 18 months. And trained us as engineers. So here I am, an engineer. And as I graduated, they suggested to me that maybe you might want to go in the Navy. Oh, why would I want to go to the Navy? It'd be good for you. Why was it good for me? Now other guys, maybe, I know one of my roommates, he got 40 demerits for going AWOL. That's all he got. Me, I got, I think 60 or 70, but what for? My back of my tie was longer than the front of my tie. They pulled my drawer out with dust. There was a bookmark in the book. I didn't do really anything bad, but I got more demerits than practically anybody. So they thought that the Navy would be good for me. So I ended up an ensign. And where did I go from there? I went to Navy Yard. 2 months in the Navy Yard. And then I was sent across by train to the West Coast. And here's an interesting little thing. We had air conditioning. You know how we had air conditioning? We'd stop at a station, they'd put ice in a box and run air over the box, and that was our air conditioning. But it was comfortable. Anyway, we get to the West Coast. I get assigned to the, gotta get my ships right now. Mifflin, aka 207, attack transport. I go down to see the Mifflin. There's its keel. It's all it was made, was a keel. The ship wasn't built. And so the whole crew was assigned to Treasure Island, and we went to different schools and so forth. And I'm officer of the day this time. And standing there, I'm an ensign, and I look, I think I must have looked about 15 or 16. And I'm standing there, you know, in front of my whole crew that was there, and I hear this from the back. Holy crap, they're sending us babies for officers. I think that was the best thing that happened to me, but any kind of highfalutin stuff that I had went out. Well, I think it must have been, they finished that ship in 2 or 3 months. It's amazing how quickly. Getting the engine inside and everything, it's just amazing. Anyway, they got her done. And this was up in San Francisco. We went down to San Diego. I'm trying to remember. I think that's where we picked up the 2nd Marines. I almost missed this ship, but I did. We went there to Hawaii. And from Hawaii, we went out to Marianas, mostly the Tinian and Saipan. And we were there, we didn't know where we were going, had no idea what was going on. We just knew that we had troops. And I'm in the engine room, I never find anything out anyway. The guys up on the bridge, they know half the stuff, we never get in touch with them, so I didn't know where we were going. We take off, and finally I found out we were going to Iwo Jima. So I think they bombed Iwo Jima for, I think at least a month before we got there. We're an attack transport. We land troops on these boats, and for a hospital ship out. Well, we landed, and one the Marines, and we also sent I don't know what you want to call it, a group ashore, a medical group ashore. And medical group got completely annihilated. Give me a minute. Anyway, I saw they put the flag up. We were watching it. They took the dang thing down. What's going on here? What's going on? And then he put another one up. Later on, years later, I heard that the second one was bigger than the first one, and that they didn't get the right pictures. But anyway, we're a hospital ship leaving. That gets me. We had doctors and everything, and we were able to save a lot of guys. But the wardroom was a morgue. And if you want to fix the guys, you can't. So, as you can see, it still gets to me. We couldn't fix them, obviously. So anyway, we went back to Saipan, and there was an area in Saipan. I don't remember if it was this time there or because we went back. There was an area in Saipan that, no, it was Tinian, and they wouldn't let you go near it. And years later, I found that that's where they were preparing the H-bomb, or the atom bomb. Anyway, we left there. We went back, Hawaii, back to the West Coast. And I think we went up to Portland, Oregon, Seattle, and then down. And I think it was in San Diego, or I don't remember where. I think it was the 2nd Marines we loaded up with. And we went back, Hawaii, and then it's where we saw every little island in the Pacific. I remember we were at Bikini, for one. And, you know I remember that. And then from there, we went back to Saipan, Kenya. And we were getting ready. We knew we were going to invade. We had no idea. Then we went up. We invaded, we thought we were going to invade Okinawa. But this is something most people didn't know. We did the fake invasion of Okinawa. The regular invasion was on the side near China. This was on the side on the Pacific side. And we went there and went through the whole exercise of invading, except we didn't invade. The whole idea was to bring the Japanese troops away from the other side, to take as many away so it would be easier for the other guys to get ashore. And the kamikaze came after us. They missed us. The guys told me, I'm down the engine room. So I don't know what's going on up there. And the kamikaze missed us. They told me by 15 feet. I can't believe that. I figured 30 feet. And then we heard the Japanese Navy was coming after us. And, that scared us. So we took off for the Philippines. And a big storm came up. If there ever was a big storm that I liked, that was the one I liked, because the Japanese Navy turned around and went back. And we went to the Philippines. And if any of you ever drank any of that coconut liquor. That is the rat guttiest stuff you ever had, and it'll knock you right out. And that's what we drank. And I got assigned to Shore Patrol. And here I am on Shore Patrol. And I hear this, help, or something like that. I rush out there, and this guy's raping this girl. One of our guys was a soldier. And so I said, get the hell out of here, leave him. Get out. He said, screw you. Don't bother me. I said, I'm bothering you. And I said, I'm going to shoot you if you don't. He said, go ahead and shoot me. So I figured, I'll miss him. I should get him in the leg. Lousy shot. The gal left. He said, okay. And I didn't get a citation there. I mean, once they checked out what was going on. Back to the United States, we load up again, I think the Army this time, heading for Hawaii. We were going to invade Japan. And then that's when we hear about the A-bomb. And I'm very ambivalent about that. I mean, all the hell it created. But we didn't have to invade Japan. So you see where I'm ambivalent. Glad we didn't have to invade Japan. Sorry we had to drop the bomb. We instead became occupying troops. So we occupied, I think it was Hero One is where we dropped the troops. And came back to the United States. And, we took the ship to, I'm trying to remember what, somewhere in California that doesn't want to come to me. And I was in charge of mothballing that ship and the Talladega. Mothballing means putting stuff away so that when you're not going to use the ship, but when another crew comes on and takes it, it's in good enough condition so you can run her again. So the first one I do took me 2 days extra. Boy, did they give me what's the matter? So the other guys are getting them done in time. I think there were about 8 shifts. So I asked him, he said, do the paperwork. Just be sure the paperwork is done. So I do the paperwork, and I get the paperwork done early. And so I show them the paperwork, and they said, hey, I got a commendation. I'm out, back to New York. And I think I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, it wasn't the invasions or anything, it was the hospital ship. As you see, I'm not completely over that yet. Anyway, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I'm on the beach. I see this gal. So I try to, make her pass. She doesn't seem very interested until she finds out that I'm a merchant marine officer. And what she turned out to be, she was a recruiter for the Haganah, which is was the clandestine organization that was bringing people through the British blockade to Israel, which it wasn't Israel by then, at that time. And she was real interested in me then. And I don't know how they did it. In a week, they knew more about me than I knew about myself. And I was assigned to a ship down in Baltimore again. It was an old Coast Guard cutter. I think it was World War I variety. And we got her together, got her going, and took her across, ran into a heck of a storm. Brought her to Marseille. And I can speak a little bit of French. I've been in France off and on so many times. My wife said it's street French. Anyway, we spent some time in Marseille and got the ship ready. Went around to Le Havre. From Le Havre, we went to Denmark to Sweden. In Sweden, we picked up 750 women who had been in concentration camps, who had been hiding out. We came back down through past Gibraltar, and we went. We went to the coast of North Africa because the engine was leaking, and we had to fix the engine. So I worked on that. Thank you. We worked on the engine, got her going again. We went up to the boot of Italy and picked up another 650. Now this is a Coast Guard cutter. The regular crew is 35 people. We got 1,300 people on it. I still can't, 1,300 people on a little old Coast Guard cutter. And we headed toward Haifa. Some British destroyers followed us. They tried to stop us in Haifa, on the way to Haifa. What they didn't know is this Coast Guard cutter was also a icebreaker. So one of the destroyer went in front of us and put a hole in his side. But anyway, then they came aboard, and we tried to stop them. I got knocked out. I was unconscious. And then we hit a reef down there. And we were stopped, and British Marines came aboard. Now I forgot one part. It's the part I'm proud of. One of the Marines got knocked out. We both came to consciousness about the same time. And the people were so mad. They came up, they pulled his club out, and they were going to beat the heck out of him. I know what they were going to do. I ran up on top, got rid of him. And I stood over and said, 999. And they never did him again. And I feel like I saved a lot of problems. Maybe saved his life. But I really feel good about that. Anyway, they took all the people, and the Brits bandaged my head. And they took all the people onto a prison ship. And I started getting delirious. And, we were clandestine. They didn't want the British to know who the crew was and so forth. So I got delirious. And I sort of came out of it, and the British in those days we didn't have penicillin, sulfur on there and stitched me up. And it was infected, and the sulfur took care of the infection. I was all right after that. But what I heard is my guys were trying to decide whether they were going to take me out or not, because I might, while I was unconscious, or rather, while I was out like that I might squeal to say what was going on. But apparently they decided not to. I hope. I mean, I don't know. I'm here. We were taken from there to Cyprus. We went all these people in Cyprus. There are other ships there and so forth, and all the people who they've rescued from the concentration camps and so forth were in Cyprus. And I got orders to get out, and when a certain number of people were allowed to go to Israel every month. So they stuck me in with them. And they went from Israel to another detention camp. And as soon as we got in the detention camp, there were these showers there. And if you know anything about showers, and before the people were exterminated, they had to go through shower. And so these people, I mean, they were frightened as heck, going to take showers. What are they going to do? What? And I knew that the Brits wouldn't do it. I mean, if you ever want to get captured by anybody, pick the Brits. They treat you better than probably anybody else. Anyway, so I went through the showers first, and they saw I was okay. So I had to get out of the detention camp. And I got orders to get you out. So they brought oranges in, and they paid off one of the guards, and they put me in the truck with the orange crates, in the middle of the orange crates. So when the orange crates came out, I came out with them. So, and I was assigned to Marseille again. This time I went there, they gave me the Dutch passport. I don't understand how I got away with it, but I got away with it. So I went back to Marseille under a Dutch passport. On Marseille, I picked up, there were two ships, Pan York, Pan Crescent. I picked up the Pan York. It was an old United Fruit freighter. We took her through the Bosphorus and the Black Sea to Constanța, Romania. And that's where the Pan York, which is a twin ship, which was a twin to that one. And we spent 2 months getting these ships ready with bunks and the holds and everything. And we were getting ready to take some people out of Romania. And Anna Walker was a dictator there. And she was Jewish too. She wouldn't let us take anybody out. But she didn't care if the people got on the train and went to Bulgaria. So that's what happened. All the people who wanted to take out of Romania got on trains, went to Bulgaria, and we picked them up in Bulgaria. And I still can't believe this. We got 7,500 on each one of those ships. On these cruise ships, I think they get 4,000. I don't know how we got them on. At the time, I was too busy worrying about the engines. We came out through the Bosphorus, into the Mediterranean, heading for Haifa again. this time it was a cruiser and a couple of destroyers. I keep wanting to say can. We always used to call them destroyers can. We're not going to argue with the cruiser. So the two skippers made arrangements that would go to Cyprus. Now, while we were doing that, the people came up on the deck and they wanted to, they went over to watch it. Our ship with the people on it, and go like that. This guy, the skipper's yelling, "Get down in there, get down back in the holds, get back in the hold." So they got back in the hold. We got to Cyprus. They unloaded. And I heard sometime later that the fact that we brought 15,000 people there was when they decided to allow Israel to become a state. So I feel real good about that. I'm not too happy about what's going on in Israel right now. I gotta say this, because I stuck my neck out to build that country. I don't think it's right that they should occupy the Palestinians. Let me give you another little story. My mom, she was in Russia. They had these pogroms. In the pogrom, they would go into a village and burn up the houses and kill some of the people, and Jewish people. And so my mother went to England, and then from England came here. So now, the Israelis, they go into a Palestinian village, they tear down the houses, occasionally they kill a person, and my question is, do we ever learn? Do we ever learn anything? I belong to Veterans for Peace. I hope I learned something. Anyway, they got me out of the detention camp, went back to Israel, spent a couple of months in the kibbutz. From there I went back to the United States. They want me to tell a little bit what happened after. Went to college, sent the credits that I had in the college back to Kings Point, got an engineering degree. But then, when I was in college, I discovered psychology. I never even heard about it before. So that was more interesting. So I stayed in college and got a psych degree. Then I went up to Detroit and spent a year studying child psychology. From there I went to University of Connecticut, got a master's degree. Then I went down to Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, and worked in a hospital as a psychologist for 2 years. Then I went to Detroit, Michigan as a school psychologist, got a doctor's degree in psychology. Then I went down to Indiana State, taught for 2 years, and then there was an opening here for director of a mental health center. So I came here and was director of a mental health center for 8 years. Then I went to Shippensburg and taught there for 23 years. And then at 70 I retired. And I'm in my late 70s and they need a geriatric psychologist. So part-time, for 5 years, I was a geriatric psychologist working in nursing home. And then I did retire, and I am retired. Questions?
your breath for just a minute. There's an important, I'm going to let you catch your breath for just a minute. There's an
Yeah.
important announcement that I forgot to make if you,
Go ahead.
and while everybody else can think of their questions, well, I'm welcome back to Bev Barbie, who has an announcement about her Pearl Harbor event coming forth next month. While I'm doing that, I'll make mention of a couple of obituaries that were given to me, one of which was Nicholas Oresco, World War II hero, the oldest living Medal of Honor recipient, passed away recently. Very sad. I'll leave these on the table out back for everybody to read if they wish. So, Bev Barbie.
Hi, everyone. Most of you know me and have heard me make these announcements every year, but
Any questions of Gene?
Yeah, I want to know when you're going to write your first book.
What?
When are you going to write a book?
Maybe when I'm 95.
Any questions? Yes, Jerry.
I'd like to ask about the organization which I never heard of before until you mentioned it tonight. An organization to help these people, these Jewish people who had escaped from somehow got out of concentration camps, and they were trying to save them. Can you tell us some more about it, and what is the name of the group, etc.?
Well, it was a combination of groups. Let me give you a little background there. The organization was several different ones. There was the Haganah, which was a sort of middle road. There was a right-wing organization, a left-wing organization, and so forth. They worked throughout Europe, finding these people and trying to save as many as they could. I'm trying to think. I know that sometimes they would fake. I know one group faked an American convoy and brought people from Eastern Europe down through Italy. Did things like that. They were mostly Jewish. A lot of them were, I'll tell you, there would be no Israel if there weren't Americans. The Americans piloted all the planes that the Israelis had. A lot of the Americans who were in the Army and the Navy and the Marines came over to Israel to help out, things like that. Does that answer?
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, Gene, you mentioned that there was a big storm off of Okinawa that turned the Jap Navy back. Was that the one that was called Halsey's Typhoon?
Gee, I don't remember the name. I just remember, thank heaven, it was there. It was one heck of a storm, I just know that.
Well, there was one that was named after Admiral Halsey, and we apparently lost several ships in that. There were 2 or 3 destroyers for some.
We didn't lose a ship on the convoy that we were on.
Thank you.
It might have been.
Okay, you said you moved around a lot. I was just kind of curious where you were born and raised.
Born in New Jersey. Partly raised in New Jersey, raised the rest in New York.
Thank you.
My mother had early onset Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's. So we had to put her in and then we came here.
I was wondering, why were the Brits trying to stop you, being they were an important ally?
What was?
Why were the Brits trying to stop you?
Oh, the Brits. They were in a quandary. Here were the Arabs. Here were the Jews. If they gave in to the Jews, the Arabs would be very upset. If they gave in to the Arabs, the Jews would be very upset. there was no solution. The solution made itself.
So they were tied to the Arabs, that's...
No, I don't think so. They weren't tied to the Arabs or well, some of them were tied to the Jews and some were tied to the Arabs. But generally, they were right in the middle. Either way, whichever way they went, that group would be unhappy, so to speak.
I really don't have a question, but it's just, it was the British mandate. They were, British troops were occupying Palestine, administrating Palestine. And they were in a quandary because that was part of their colonial, part of the empire, basically. So they, I don't know the full history, but that's where the British military was pretty much running the place. There were mostly tribes. There weren't too many organized countries per se. So it came after the war. You had the countries in the Middle East start to form their own, have their own identity rather than a tribe.
Back in the early 60s, Leon Uris wrote a book called Exodus. Some of you may remember reading that. And that was, a lot of that was detailed in that book.
You might want to tell the story about their submarine and about Phil.
Oh.
That might tell you a little bit about that relationship with the British and how we got together in the last several years with another person from Israel and a captain of a ship and that whole relationship.
Yeah, this is interesting. It did not happen to me, but I think it's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that. The chief engineer on the Israeli ships was my friend Phil. My friend Phil was living he's an Israeli. He has a German background. He was living in the United States. He was in the Merchant Marine. He sailed Merchant Marine. He got sunk off the coast of Africa. I think he was, the German submarine came up. The feeling was, if this is it, the German skipper got into a rubber boat, came over, said, "Can we help you?" He said, "Can we have some water?" "Oh, gee, I can't, we're out of water. We'll give you food." And he gave them a chart so they could find their way to land. They got back on land. After the war, my friend was in Israel. He wanted to get together with this guy and say thanks. He found out that this guy had done this with many other people, and that he got a citation from, can't remember the admiral, a German admiral, a negative citation. "Don't you do that again," you know? My friend tried to get in touch with him, and never was able to because he got sunk. But the town he came from found out about this and got in touch with as many people that he had saved as he could, and they had a festival with all the people that he had saved. And I'll tell you another side note about that. We, my wife and I, and Phil and his gal, we rented a boat a canal boat in England. And my friend would stop at every place we go and call this guy up. We finally found out that the guy was a captain of a British ship that sunk, and he wanted to get in touch with him. So this guy meets us, and here we are, scrubby on this old canal boat and everything. And I swear, he made the Queen of England look scrubby. He and his wife were the most, wow, and they were the nicest people. So that was a good experience. And one other experience that I forgot. The third mate on the merchant ship that I was on, the Cotton Mather, got appendicitis. and we had to leave him at Cape Town. And they got us a third mate, who we brought aboard in a net. He was so drunk. And we picked him up, and when we sobered him up, he was a good third engineer. He was a good third engineer. We get to Port Tewfik, and the guys, we gambled. Everybody owed everybody money. And he owed everybody money. So he jumped ship. And this is not a happy tale. He jumped ship in Fort Tewfik. No, not Fort Tewfik. I get that always mixed up. I gotta look it up. Here we go. Fort Elisa. He jumped ship in Fort Elisa. And he got real drunk. He got mugged. He found his body the next day. As I say, that's a happy tale. I don't want to
On that happy note, are there any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank you very much for giving a great presentation. If you all look around each other, you'll find there aren't many young people here tonight. Jerry Figgins, one of our faithful loyals, has given me a letter that he wrote a couple of years ago, and I'm going to have it published or brought out next month for you all to see. But basically what he says is in his years of teaching, he noticed there's a terrible lack of understanding of World War II by the students in the schools. And he figured that out pretty quickly because he looked at a couple of history books and there was very little mention of World War II. There was America up to World War II, there was America after World War II, and almost an asterisk saying, oh yes, by the way, there was a war and here's the map, but that's all there was. So I think I'm going to bring it out, I'm going to copy it and have it out here next month. And hopefully it'll encourage you all to bring some youngsters out as well, because there's so much to learn that isn't being taught. We have another...
Mr. President, we have 2 young people.
I said there weren't many. And thank you so much for coming. I hope it was educational for you. Bring your friends next month. All right? Please visit the Helmet Committee on your way out. Please come back. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in December.